I actually met Jackie a couple months ago when I was interviewing very successful freelancers on Upwork, and Jackie was kind enough to, you know, take the time to talk to me, and then we actually talked maybe one or two more times after that. So I've learned a lot from Jackie, and I'm sure that you guys will too. She started her journey studying accounting at Long Island University, and after that, she moved on and got her MBA. And you know, accounting and MBA may be like a non-traditional journey path into data science and data analytics, but you might be surprised to hear you're not the first person I've met that started in accounting and got into this field. So that's one of the things I love about data science, data analytics is that you have people from all different types of backgrounds kind of operating in this space. After that, after getting her MBA, Jackie moved on to PwC, where she was doing accounting, and then eventually got into a senior management consultant role focused on technology. And that was kind of like the transition for her to break into data freelancing and ultimately launching her business. So after PwC, she launched her current company, Omni Business Intelligence Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about Jackie's whole journey and what she has in store for her future, like how she's planning on growing her consulting agency. So thank you, Jackie, for being here. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. No, this is awesome. I'm glad we were able to do this. You gave me a very kind and introduction, but I felt like I've already learned enough, like just a lot learning from you as well, in terms of what you've been up to. There's so much power in community and doing these types of events and, partnering with like-minded people in data science. Especially, from freelancers perspective, growing a business. Um, they're just being able to surround yourself with these types of people and this type of community is so important. So I really just hope today to be able to impart some of my learning thoughts, and what I've gained in this process and what I've learned, and then also just things that I'm still navigating through. Even someone that's, I guess I'd be considered, somewhat successful on Upwork is still kind of like figuring out what are my next steps in my business model. And so hope to give some really cool insights to everyone listening today and, even on the recording.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited, and I completely agree with you. Like a community, a team is in many ways like this force multiplier. And I mean, that's really the story behind this community. It's just like the
Yeah.
realization that you can't do everything alone and you can go much further if you're willing to connect with others and learn from each other. And so, yeah, I'm definitely really excited for this conversation. And so I want to start kind of at the beginning of all this. So you're working at PwC. What kind of drove you, inspired you toward freelance? What's the story there?
So, I mean, truthfully, it really happened during the pandemic when a lot of companies, and the company I was at being one of them, was in a difficult position where they couldn't offer bonuses and raises and things that, that I certainly, if it was a not an important year of finances for me, probably I might not have looked towards freelancing. But I mean, I was getting married, I was buying a home, and there were so many things on my mind that I recognized. I'm like, I need to grow and like quickly. So kind of it was a little bit of not necessarily like a passion thing. It was kind of like a
Right.
financial need at first to kind of um, help myself and my fiance at the time too, and just so it came from a place of just like we have to take care of ourselves.
Right.
But then it opened a huge door for me because I realized so much more of what I'm capable of and the value I can bring clients and businesses. And the fact that, I think when you're working at a corporate role, especially an enterprise business for so long, you always attribute, your successes and things to the environment that you're in. And while there's amazing things to be learned and a lot of experiences that I've gotten in those roles, it's not really until you kind of are stripped away from that environment do you actually realize like what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And so that financial need at the time was the impetus for making that type of a decision to start exploring that world, but turned into something far more greater than that, where I realized like my potential as a person, as a creative, as a, you know
Yeah.
future data analyst, as a business owner, that I was not able to really uncover in a traditional corporate role.
There are two things you said that I really liked. The first one was like this whole thing arose out of a need. You know, it wasn't like a nice to have, it was like a must have. And
Yeah,
you like tapped into this more like survival mindset as opposed to, oh, it'd be nice if I could have a little bit more disposable income.
right.
And maybe that kind of was a big driver of your success, just me speculating. But the second thing is kind of unlocking your potential, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. Like my my LLC, I started my company in 2020, and the mission statement from day one was to unlock human potential. And
Yeah,
so, like you saying that really resonated with me. And when you're in this like, maybe safe, you know, in some ways artificial, in some ways sterile environment of like an enterprise, there's a lot of uncertainty and
right.
kind of things that you are closed off from. And
Yeah,
it's not until that you kind of dive into like freelancing or the real world that you can really see how you react, see how you respond to these like stressors, to the
yeah,
uncertainty, to like the real world. And so that's where you kind of see what you're capable of. So I love that you said that.
yeah. And see how you respond without like others watching you. Like I feel
Mm,
like
yeah,
because in a corporate setting, there's bureaucracy, there's politics,
right.
there's jargon. You're expected to respond a particular way and adhere to certain things and policies and procedures and SOPs and all this stuff. And it's like that's great, and those things are there for a reason, but
Yeah.
when you're on your own, you realize what was most important to you in that environment that you took away from that and what you want to do different and better than
Mhm.
that environment that you're in. And you kind of like you really start to uncover who this person is, who this professional is inside of you that is a blend of all the worlds you've experienced to
Yeah.
date, you know? And how you want to go forth with that with your new venture. So for me, it was really like I realized I learned some really amazing things at PwC and I learned some amazing things outside of PwC and I want to
Yeah.
be a blend of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is actually something I wanted to talk about too, but it's like, you know, corporate and freelance, there's definitely a lot of overlap between the two. But what do you kind of see as like the pros and cons of each? Like someone who might be earlier in their career and they're trying to decide, oh, this consulting freelancing route seems interesting to me, or I could
Right.
kind of go after one of these more, these roles at like an enterprise or a larger company. What do you see as like the main pluses and minuses for each of these options?
Well, every career path is different, but for what worked for me, I mean, and this might work for quite a few people, is that I found tremendous benefit in grounding myself, like putting a foundation in my career with being in an enterprise firm because it really did sharpen my level of professionalism. It did force me to do things outside my comfort zone from time to time. It did push me in ways that I probably didn't want to be pushed. I did work with some really amazing people that taught me things. I did get some great opportunities, and so there is a lot to be gained from that type of a world. But I think whether it's the amount of years that pass in your particular role or position, or it's the people you're with, whether sometimes you just hit a point where it's like, is this all? Is this all that I am capable of? Can I be more, do more? And is the more here? Is it in this company? Is it in this role? Is it with these people? And sometimes the hard answer is no, it's not. It could be if you wanted to stay there, but like, that if you're wondering this now and you're already in this environment, you're going to continue wondering this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even with more money in your pocket. Because it's more than the money that the question arises in your mind. It's yourself. Like it's the values that are tapping at the core of you that are wondering if you're actually living up to everything that you can be. And that could be a personal value. It could be, having a better work-life balance. It could be wanting more exciting projects and wanting to work on harder
Yeah.
things and work with smaller businesses and solve real problems at a level that you wouldn't have been able to do in a corporate role.
Yeah.
It might be working with people that you get to decide who you want to work with because you have a certain barometer of personalities that you want to be surrounded by versus tolerating people just because. So there's a lot of different things that can kind of come into that. But like in a corporate role, you get access to great resources, right? And when I say corporate, I'm speaking from a consulting role at a Big Four accounting firm. I mean, everyone has a different role that they might take if they go into corporate. But resources were big for me. Getting access to platforms and tools and things that I might have not have access to, or would have been able to do at first on my own. Um, that was a really big thing. So resources were big. But, sometimes like the bureaucracy and being able to, or feeling like you are always at, a particular rating you need to be gauged against, with others, or sometimes there's managers you're reporting to that are either supportive or not supportive, of your career path and your growth that you want to achieve. Sometimes there's opportunities that you want to go after, but someone might say that's not in line with your job description or your role,
Yeah.
like what you do here. And you're kind of reminded of like you are responsible for something that you got hired to do here. You might have aspirations and want to do other things, but your responsibilities lie here first. And so that was a really like stark reminder that made me realize like, okay, from constantly wanting to do more, be more, build more brand, my knowledge, wanting to do things different, wanting to disrupt processes and wanting to be, I mean, that's sometimes that's just not a mind that's fit for a corporate role.
Yeah. I think there are two things again that you said that stuck out to me. Like one, you were talking about more than just money. Like there are a lot of values that people have, and I think when people they they might make that decision, like freelancer, corporate, and they might strictly be looking through the lens of money and completely missing all these other things that are important to them, like who
Right.
they're working with, what they're working on, what like flexible hours, like the autonomy they get in their role. And that's super important too. Money isn't everything, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, and then, in in the corporate environment, there might just be more constraints that may or may not seem um, I don't know, may or may not align with what you believe in or what you want to do. Like
Right.
you're kind of constrained by someone's opinion of you, as opposed to the quality of your work, maybe. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there are just all these things that might come up that are out of your control that might kind of hold you back in a way that's not desirable.
Yeah. It's definitely something that like if someone was listening today, I would say, if you're starting your career, there's nothing wrong if you don't feel like you want to be an entrepreneur today and like you have the drive to do it all, you want to learn, you want to read the books, you want to watch the videos, you want to meet the people. If you don't feel that way and so there's nothing wrong. Go into corporate role and learn, grow, ask
Mhm.
questions. There's experience to be gained. I would have not felt this comfortable probably doing what I'm doing today had I not had the 7 years behind me under my belt.
Yeah.
So, every career path is different. Some people come right out of college or don't go to college and they just know that they want to
Right.
just own a business and they figure it out and they do
Mhm.
it. And then there are people that are like, I don't really know what I want yet. So there's no harm in using that time. It's just more education for you. It's more reinvestment in your confidence. It's more education, more opportunities for you to see different situations. There's nothing wrong with doing something in corporate until if you feel like you're being called to break away from that and do your own thing at one point. It does set a pretty good foundation for you,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's nice to see the world that you might not want to live in too. You got to know what you don't want too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. I'm glad that you brought that up because I resonate with that. Like I feel like I learned so much even with my short time working at Toyota that it really
Right.
set the stage for the work that I do currently. So I want to kind of dive into the next phase of things where you kind of now you're freelancer. You were doing freelance on the side at PwC, but then you decided to take the leap. Was there like something that you needed to see or something that had to happen before you were comfortable taking that leap? Or was it just like, I'm going, like, I'm fed up with this. I'm going all in. I mean, and then could you add some more color there?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I definitely I know I needed to feel comfortable. Like I needed to know I had a client base. I needed to know that I had some sort of a vision for what it is I wanted to build. Like, I didn't want to go into this blind, right? Um, I also needed to know like I that my business structure, like even if it wasn't where it needs to be X amount of years from now, that I had something in place that I could rely on in terms of like having the right tools, understanding the flow of the technologies, how I interact with my contractors, what are my expectations of them, how we win work, understanding our revenue channels, understanding just a lot about how a business thrives and how it operates. And so the day I began to see it as an entity more than just a side hustle, that's when
Hmm.
I realized that I had what it took to actually build this and to do it,
Yeah.
more than just side income. So there's a lot of markers or indicators to look for. It really, when you get to a point where you're like, I need to hire someone, that's a pretty good sign. If you're
Yeah.
saying that, like um, if you're getting like bombarded with different requests for work, and you feel like you have to turn stuff away because whether you don't have the right resources or you don't have the right amount of time because you have a corporate role, things like that. Um, there are things to look for. It's usually when you feel like probably stressed,
Okay.
where it's like, okay, that's a good sign. Even though I'm stressed, it means that this is doing well enough where it has legs, and we could probably build something and run
Hmm.
with this, and this could be sustainable. But I mean, going from a role with benefits, 401k, and a very lucrative salary, you know, it can be a daunting thing to do. I think having the understanding over how are you going to what 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 are you okay with potentially taking a step back on to go to leap forward? Like,
Hmm.
is there an element of where you're going, as an entrepreneur that might not necessarily be as pretty as when you had, your role in corporate, but you're okay with that because you have a greater vision, right?
Hmm.
Kind of
Hmm.
like justification of certain things, and like and coming to terms with some of that as well, and realizing like what you're building something that's sustainable, but you have the desire to make it grow. So no matter what happens, you're going to make it grow. And when it grows, you're going to grow, whether it's your salary or you bring in employees or whatever, like you, it's actually believing in what you're building, that more than just looking at
Yeah.
as side income or passive whatever. Like, if you believe in it enough that you feel like you could do it, that's that should be enough
Yeah.
to be able to pull you away and say, all right, I'm done, I'm gonna do this, and I really care what it takes because I'm gonna do it. And the fact that I know I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna be successful in it.
Yeah. I really like that. It really kind of taking that one step back to take the leap forward. That's exactly how I feel right now because I just left my role a few months ago.
Yeah.
So definitely taking a
You give
step.
up health insurance, you give up a lot of different things. You give up, a nice steady paycheck, but then sometimes you're in this role and it's like, I'm 1 year in, like, officially on business now, and like, yeah, I give myself a paycheck or whatnot, but like there are times that monthly revenue is like 10 times what I made at my old
Yeah.
role. But it's not all going to me, it's the business
Right.
income, stuff like that.
Right.
But it's like it's a mindset shift because
Hmm.
I'm no
Hmm.
longer an individual contributor in that sense.
Right.
I'm an owner of an entity.
So so this kind of started as like freelancing on the side, and then it got to the point where you're feeling stressed, like it's like I got too much
Positive
work,
stress.
positive stress, I got way too much work to do, and you started having to hire people. What does OBIS look like now? Like what's the team look like? How did you structure the business? Um,
Yeah.
and then we can talk about like clients and revenue and stuff like that too.
So right now we are about, I want to say about 5 to 7 like really good ongoing contractors, that come in and out that are reserved for projects of their expertise. So I have people that I've interview vetted that I trust with my clients, to serve them, in a way that I feel is going to be impactful and meaningful based on their skill sets. So I kind of have like my team diversified. As a business intelligence firm, we'll have people, obviously in the data analyst science roles as well. Have some AI machine learning engineers that are ready to go for consults or projects as well. People, more on the management consulting side of things, more strategic, people that are also more, on the UI UX front in terms of design, when it comes to reporting or building something custom. I also partner with businesses too. Like there's no shame in doing that. You look at how
Mhm.
like even Microsoft partnered with OpenAI. Like even it's just a smart business move to
Yeah.
do when you know some things are going to be out of your wheelhouse. And it's not a bad thing to be out of your wheelhouse. Sometimes it's just good that it's let someone else do it and
Yeah.
you benefit from it financially and you don't need to manage every element of a certain service contract, right? So learning that as well. I have a lot of partners that are specialized in software development, ETL work and stuff like that, where I
Mhm.
might bring them in for a particular reason, to support a contract. So um, it's really about building an ecosystem around you, like having your clients, having the partners, the companies that you feel comfortable doing business with, having your contractors you depend on to serve your clients well, having the right vendors in place too, like having the right tools and things that you guys use and operate with. Like I finally got a really good project management tool in place now where it just, I know it's like hysterical. It took me a while. Because I was like, why am I always like wondering where things are? I'm like, this is terrible because we really need to get good at this. And so we finally got a tool that like tracks every ticket for all of our projects and all of that stuff. And it made a huge difference in just transparency. And so like tools and management of that can also just really help support the function of a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of different things and you just keep learning. You keep
Mhm.
learning. Who I am today is definitely not who I was the day I left my job. I was
Yeah, for
scared when
sure.
I left my job. I'm a little less scared now.
Yeah. You're more excited.
I'm more excited. There's definitely things that like it's like it makes you wonder and stuff, but like that's natural in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I think it would be silly if someone said that they have never wondered, oh, what would it be like to go back or whatever. But also when you're in that role in corporate, you're wondering what it would be like to leave. So
Yeah.
the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
I just want to water it where I am now and just
Mhm.
be proud of that. So.
So, we're running short on time. I do want to open it up for
Mhm.
audience questions, but I do want to talk about like where this is all going. So, like as a small like consulting firm at this point, probably like six-figure revenue, no problem. But what does the roadmap look like to go to that next echelon, that next level, that seven-figure revenue and beyond?
Yeah. So I mean, as I tell anyone that's like the marker for me is like once you start to hit where you're like between 100 250K in revenue, you're still small obviously, but you have the recipe for what it takes to get to seven figures. You do. You just have to figure out, what is working and how can I multiply that? How can I scale it? Um so for me, it's understanding where our biggest profitability is, like in terms of, and also I should say more so, our biggest opportunities for what brings in the most revenue, right? Being more creative in terms of potentially productizing things that were knowledge based or consulting based and things like that, and offering different ways of getting to that next level. So different, I would say different service offerings that we're looking at doing now in terms of offering outside of just normal like consulting, like BI work and analytics work, stuff like that. Also looking to take some of the solutions. We've built a lot of data models based off of very common data sources that a lot of that businesses use. So thinking about taking those and actually like selling those models themselves as well. And just being really creative about how it is we want to do that. And obviously marketing media efforts are huge. Getting the not just getting our message out there, but getting the right message to the right people. Finding that niche audience that actually needs what we can provide and getting in front of them. So a lot of what's involved in getting to that next level is continuing to have the momentum and the drive in being creative in how we want to push what we do today in terms of our offerings, but also what else can we be offering that is complementary to this. Um, Being really diligent and articulate about the contracts we strike with our clients,
Mhm.
understanding, what terms are in those for potential revenue, recurring revenue opportunities, things like that. So we're really just being mindful of what it is we want to build and how we want to get there. So a lot of different ways to capitalize on the needs that are out there and in the market. And I tell anyone, like, if you're at that 100, 250 marker, you have what it takes to get to that 7 figures, but you need to figure out like what it is that got you to that marker and just blow that up. Like,
Yeah.
do everything you can to just take that and get that to the market in as many ways as possible. Marketing efforts, talk about it, and just position yourself as an expert in that particular thing that you do,
Yeah.
because you're planting seeds. People will look at you and they'll want to work with you, whether it's today or 3 months from now, because you planted really strong seeds. And people coming in, I mean, that traffic is what's going to push you to that next
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. I really like that. So it's, if you're making that 100 to $250,000 revenue, then you're obviously onto something. You're obviously doing
You
something.
are.
There's something there that you can exploit. So it's just turning it up, like just trying to 10x that, that product, that line of business, whatever it might be, but
Yeah.
also not forgetting about other opportunities. It sounds like
Hmm.
you're also kind of keeping an open mind to other ways to kind of augment the business. And then, of course, like, turning up marketing channels and making sure the right people are getting the right message for your
Right.
specific offerings. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. I want to open it up for questions. Yeah, so if you guys have a question, please feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat, and then we'll pull you up on stage, or I'll read the question aloud to Jackie. We got a question incoming from Hari. Oh, here we go. Come on up, Hari. Are you talking, Hari? I don't think we can hear you.
I can't hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, I'm still navigating this card, so sometimes I
Story of our lives.
yeah. So I had a question while transitioning from corporate to uh, freelancing. What are the things that you realized worked well in corporate but kind of doesn't work well while freelancing? And my second question is, when it comes to documentation post project completion, and just making sure everything is in order so that it's reproducible in a later stage, um, like how do you work that out? Because in corporate it's part of the culture, but in freelancing it ends up being non-billable hours. So how do you justify that?
Great question. Um, so I guess let me answer the second one first in terms of, yeah, so documentations, I came from that background, obviously being in corporate where you're right, it's something that's expected, handing off a solution, deliverable, etc. I just naturally brought that into my model. Like, I expect my freelancers to do that and they know that. Um, I will pay them though for that, because to me that is part of, and it's part of what I sell. Like, when I sell the products and solutions to my clients, is that they're getting a full new implementation of a new tool that's going to be helpful for their business. But they can opt in for the documentation, the training, and all of that experience as well. And sometimes we just do it naturally. Like, there is a line to be drawn, but definitely we incorporate that into our model. Like, nonetheless, I will absolutely make sure that when my clients want that we're doing that anyway. And that is actually something that we are putting into our pricing. So, whether they do that in corporate, that's part of contracts or not. I do remember, like, when I used to look at SOWs and stuff, that like there was train the trainer components in the SOW and work orders. So I feel like some project, it really depends on, like, I guess, who's crafting the proposals here. But yeah, definitely we will without a doubt put that in. It's also it's important for clients, especially in data science, to have access to the right documentation after something's been put into place, because I mean, whether they want to come back to us, obviously we'd love for them to come back to us, but we also want them to be successful, in their own endeavors and what they're building. And so part of what we're doing is we're transforming their businesses. We don't want them to be 100% dependent on us, because then I want them to understand that we are here as advisors and we're here to guide them and support them. And that genuine camaraderie that we build with them is enough for them to typically come back and give us more work. But also it's allowing for them to fly too, like letting them train them and upskill them and let them kind of take something over if that's what they want. And sometimes they don't want that. Sometimes they want us to continue it. So, but we give our clients the options, and we definitely do put that. First question was what worked well in corporate that has not worked well in, or I guess, yeah, worked well in corporate that hasn't worked well as a
Yeah,
freelancer. I
yeah,
think that was your question.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it's a really good question. I don't think I've ever been asked this before. Um, I mean, I think without sounding like a particular way, I think sometimes you can get away with just giving like a jargon canned response to businesses. And you can kind of hide behind the umbrella of a bigger team or something, and in freelance, you just can't do that. Like, you either know it or you don't. You can't kind of BS your way through a project. Like, clients can pick up on that, and there's no shield, if you will. And so, that's something that like won't work, is being kind of like trying to act like you know everything, but then actually not knowing everything is something that like you can kind of get away with a little bit in the corporate world, unless if it depends on what role you're in. Um, but you definitely cannot get away with that when you're working one-on-one with a business. Because they know their businesses better than you know them or anyone else, and like if you don't like click with that immediately and like actually be able to derive and provide value up front that isn't just things that are regurgitated or your managers told you to say and things like that, like you won't do well. So like really focusing on providing hard value in each conversation you have with a client versus kind of kicking the can on things and drawing out deadlines, and like just like really like committing to treating them with absolute respect. I think is something that I saw a big difference, because when you come from a bigger company, sometimes you have so much going on. You might be working on many different projects at once, and like then you have internal like administrative things that you're responsible to do as well, and like you just constantly feel like overburdened, and sometimes you don't always give your clients your best, but you can't get away with not giving them your best as a freelancer if you want to be successful. If you're just like side hustle freelancer, you can get a crappy review and move on and whatever, but if you want to build a business, every single interaction a client has with you has to count for something.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Hari. These were really
No
good
problem.
questions.
Thanks. Great questions. Yeah.
All right, we got a few more minutes. Any other questions from the audience? Let's see, we got Nick here. Nick is also a very successful freelancer on Upwork. It's great to see him. He's going to be talking this Saturday on our freelancer panel.
Awesome.
So looking forward to that.
Cool.
Well, if there are no more questions, let's see. Oh, here we go. Hand up from, okay, so we got Hari first, and then I'll come back to you, Nick.
Yes. Thank you so much again. So, I was just wondering, while working with clients with a non-technical background, who are new to the field, how do you explain or basically, yeah, how do you interpret models and how do you show the causality of models and things like that while working with not, yeah, clients from a non-technical background?
Yeah, great question. And I think this is a big like challenge for anyone that's in technology consulting. Because our brains work one way, we're wired a particular way. We've been, soaked into so much knowledge and stuff that they're just not thinking about. They're focused on their own business. So that communication gap can be a challenge. What do we do? Well, I try and understand how my clients do understand the communications I do provide them and what resonates well with them. And I listen to them. I listen to how they speak. I listen to how they speak to their colleagues, and it kind of informs my ability to understand what's the proper way to communicate a technical concept. And I wouldn't say that I haven't used, and I hope all of us are somehow being a little creative from time to time, like a chat GPT, right? To kind of explain how to process a concept for someone. Like for a great example is I did a consultation through Upwork about using certain BI tool, right? And API, just simple thing that we all understand, like application programming interface. We understand how it works and everything. But the client or just didn't get it. And it was like a team of 3 people, and they were just very excited about what the tool could do and everything, but they just were stuck on this one concept. And could you not, like, used a metaphor that about, something about like being in a restaurant waiting for your food to come out. There's a chef in the kitchen or something preparing your meal and everything. Your server goes into the kitchen, gets the meal, brings it back into the table, and so the server's the API going in, getting what you need from the systems and everything, and communicating and bringing it to the table, and helping you communicate backward. Oh, you don't like this? Well, I could write that back to the, whatever. It's like showing a bilateral communication channel as, a set of code or whatever, which is a very interesting way. And so they immediately clicked with it. And so, using tools at our disposal to kind of be creative in how we can show them concepts, and also just understanding, like, sometimes they just want the highest level understanding over it. They don't need to go into the details that we sometimes think that they need. We might be like, well, you might want to understand this because you could choose between doing it this way and and like sometimes it's just not worth it. It's like make the best decision on behalf of your client that is going to protect them, put them in the, do what you would do for yourself, like the highest quality in my sense. Like it's kind of like been my perspective on it too. And then like if they want to understand it post after the fact or whatnot, you can go into that layer of detail. But sometimes business stakeholders that aren't in technology positions want to just understand they want to understand the value of it, the ROI, are there security implications, are we at risk? They're going to ask like those basic macro questions. And if you just answer those questions and you have the technical explanation ready to go in case they want to go into that layer of detail, that's probably the best way to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Another great
Great
question. Thank
question.
you,
Thank
Morgan.
you.
All right, let's bring Nick up on stage. What's up, Nick?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Thanks
Hi,
for
Nick.
coming.
Hey, how are you? Yes, I messaged you on LinkedIn. I'm also from Long Island, so we're both from that area.
Yes.
So one question that you guys touched on was like the benefits of freelancing versus being in the corporate world, and like the pros and cons of that. So I wonder if you could maybe discuss that a little bit more. And what I found freelancing is that it's pretty hard to like do stuff on your own. Like a lot of times, like when people hire you for a job, they're not like hiring for like just one specific task. It's like they're hiring you as a candidate, and they're like, oh, if it takes 1 or 2 weeks to onboard you and get you up to speed with the system or like this new software, like it's no big deal. It's just a little bit of time. Whereas in freelancing, it's like they want you to just come in and like bust out code and start making progress like right away. So I found that that's like kind of a difficult divide that like I've kind of had to turn down jobs that have been like I could probably do them
Yeah.
if I had someone else that had some experience that could help me for a few days. So I'm wondering what you think the greatest potential benefit of a community of freelancers like this that Shaw's building. Is it um,
Yeah.
like being able to generate job leads, getting help from other freelancers, and if you've kind of been part of something like this before, if this is kind of new to you as well, like you've just been doing solo stuff for the past few years.
Yeah, so I've been, solo in the way that, like, in terms of like generating leads and traffic and everything, yes. But like not solo in terms of serving like clients. Like I have quite a few people that help me on those clients from time to time. But I do see tremendous value in a community like this, knowing what talent is out there, what talent's ready to go. Because you're right, sometimes there are a lot of great projects that come across that are that require multiple minds, and sometimes the client doesn't understand that they're looking for a resource, not just a particular solution for an issue, but they're looking for ongoing help, and then they are all looking for someone that potentially has blended experience. So I actually just had like an interview for an enterprise client where it sounded like it was supposed to be like a normal like analytics type role or whatever. In talking with the client, like learned that it was actually like way more than what they were actually marketing it to be. And so that was like the first time that I like actually like turned down continuing that process with them, because I recognized like they were looking for one candidate. I'm a business owner. Like I can do my projects, I could do some projects here and there, but I'm building a team. I'm not here to do all of the projects anymore. And so someone that wants 40 hours a week is just not going to work with me. It would work if I was able to bring my team in and support that. And so kind of distinguishing between what is me versus like what is something that I can put on my team, that's a huge thing that took me a little bit to kind of figure out, like get the confidence to say like, okay, yes, you're hiring me, but you're hiring my company too. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I really could see a ton of value in something like this where we could have referral sources, and there could be, we could be sending each other business for opportunities. But really, the challenge sometimes is that there's so much crossover in talent, and that everyone really needs to be like commit and be respectful to certain areas of expertise, knowing that like one person in a group, right, could be responsible for handling projects of this particular nature and what. And so building a team like that, or community like that, where there's individual like call outs, I think is really, really important for the success of like the referral program itself. And then having backups, like if someone's busy, then who would be the next person designated for this particular type of a job, project, or whatnot. Yeah, I think that that would be really, really, really awesome to have access to something like that, especially like if we're all in, analytics and data and science and whatnot. We probably are all shooting for similar projects and like figuring out like, well, where can we kind of bring in all of our individual expertise and put a solution together that is something that is cohesive and compelling. Maybe just we start an agency. Something like that, but yeah, I hope I answered your question. I think you asked a couple questions, so I don't know if I answered
Yeah,
the
it
first
was
one.
pretty broad, so I think that covered it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing there. It's funny, the early ideas of TDE, it was going to be like this kind of agency thing, but it kind of turned into much more than that, this community and like this idea of getting freelancers together to collaborate is more like a add-on now. And then we try to do that in a few different
Yeah.
ways, but we definitely have a lot of room for improvement. And so I'm glad that we have like all the freelancers here. We got you, Jackie, we got Nick, we got so many other freelancers in here, and they can share what's valuable to them, share their perspective and ideas. And I've already gotten so many good ideas from just even you two. So, we have the job board, which Nick has been posting in there, which I really appreciate, and hopefully it's been valuable to him. So, posting in the job board is a great way to kind of connect with people for specific roles. We have these spotlights, which,
Mhm.
that's what this event is. Nick was also part of a spotlight. So, that's like a way that people can broadcast their journey, their expertise to the whole community. So now, next time, if I know I
Right.
have a client that needs business intelligence help, I can go to Jackie. If I know a client that needs data science help, I can go to Nick. So it's like these things.
Right.
But an idea that you gave me, Jackie, when we talked last was this visualization of the community, the data entrepreneurs
Mm.
map, where all the members are visualized
Yeah.
in this network, and then you have like the different expertise that are labeled, and then this visualization is searchable. So if you're looking for a very particular skill set, people that opt into being part of this visualization, being part of this indexing, you know,
Right.
can be searchable from people that are looking for particular roles or need particular help on a project.
Right.
So I definitely feel like that is something that's going to get more and more traction as our community grows. We're still small. We're like 200 people in the Discord.
Yeah.
So we're just a few hundred members, but once we get hitting 1,000 members, 10,000 members, so on, it's going to be a lot more of these opportunities are going to come up.
Yeah. And what you're doing is so important because as we're saying, like this is just whether you're freelance or you're data science, like this is a community that can have a lot of value for people and a lot of different ways to monetize too, you know, in terms of people getting to experience the benefits of being a part of such a community. You know, so like even doing that visual that we were talking about would be enough to get people want to tap in and be like, well, I want to be responsible. I want to be the person that handles this part of the map, you know, when jobs come in, things like that. And I also feel like when there's actual exchange of leads and referral sources, people start to feel really, really comfortable with the integrity of the community and the fact that people are actually leaning in. When there's participation and people are present, it has a huge impact on the success of it's a network effect. So yeah, I'm excited for you for this as a whole. You know, obviously want to support and see it grow and want to learn more about who else is in this community too. We do a lot of work, you know, in business intelligence. A lot of the work that we do always somehow gets us into reporting and analytics layer of that BI life cycle, where we're very, very specialized in like Power BI and Microsoft domain products and stuff like that, doing a lot of work in automations and whatnot and working on like some chatbot development stuff now. So we're very trying to really diversify and grow our experience, but our bread and butter is really reporting and analytics. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a
yeah.
perfect announcement. Now everyone knows that if they are looking for those kinds of opportunities, they know who to reach out to.
And I'm always looking for people too that help with like um just general data like transformation work. I'll have projects where we really need someone that can lean in and handle, you know, writing a script or writing a line of code or whatnot for a machine learning algorithm, for something, a model that we're trying to build. Someone that can really effectively communicate with me, understand the client's needs and business, and translate that into something that's predictive in nature. And so, someone with some sort of a data science, like AI, machine learning background. I'm always looking for people with those types of skills, and then people that have more of a UI UX focus. In terms of like designing dashboards too, is something that I'm looking for. Not right now, but like that. Those are resources that I do look for on a frequent basis.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we went a little over, but I feel
So,
like it was a really valuable discussion. So let's thank Jackie once again for, taking the time to do this interview. Thank you, Hari. Thank you, Nick, for all the great questions. We are going to share the event recording
thank you
in the
guys.
past events channel. We're going to post it up on our YouTube channel. We also have a survey, so if you have any feedback for us, you have any feedback for Jackie, please, if you got 30 seconds after this, we'd love to hear your feedback. And then with that, thanks again, guys, for joining. Our next event is actually on Saturday, where Nick, Mateo, another freelancer, and Dimitri, another freelancer, will be all part of a panel discussion where we're going to kind of continue this freelancer theme in the community. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Jackie.